another video on how to manipulate basic pattern blocks for a bodice and for a skirt. So looking at the basic bodice pattern that we have, you can see that this comes in multiple different sizes. So we have size 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 and 18, and that's the bust inch that you have in brackets next to it as well. So that's working out different sizes. We also can see that it is, so we have this is the back and this is the front. The front is cut on a fold, or should be cut on a fold. Can't see, oh yeah, I've put a little indication of that in there. Whereas the back would need a zipper. These bits in here are what go together to form the armhole. It's good to just have a little play around with how it would fit together so you sort of understand different pieces. And these bits are the shoulder seams where they would join up, so they would join up along like that. And we can see that we have a neckline at the front that dips down like this, a neckline at the back that goes up quite high. We also have some darts, so a back dart and a front bust dart. So what this would look like, I've just converted this to a mini version as well. So that's what the pattern would look like just on its own, remembering that we do need to have that fold at the centre back and zip allowance included, centre front fold and zip allowance included at the centre back. I've also marked on my pattern that I'll be cutting 2 out of the fabric and 2 out of the lining of each piece, or 1 on fold out of each for the front. So a few things that you could do to actually manipulate this pattern. So this is what it would look like together when it's all sewn up without any changes. So we have our bust darts here. We can see that's just a basic scoop neck, and same we have our back darts as well with the zip in the back. So there's so many different things that you could do to modify this pattern. If you quite like this look here, this is making it more princess seams. All you have to do is take this line and convert it up here like this, and then you actually have this and this become separate pattern pieces. You might like to play around with this and sort of ease it, because that's going to be a very extreme curve there. So you might like to ease that in a little bit like that, and then you would call this piece center front and this piece would become side front. So that's how you could turn it into princess seams, and it would give this look here. And you would need to remember, so this pattern here does come with seam allowance already included, which it tells us on the pattern. So you would need to make sure that at this spot you would actually retrace another pattern off this and add seam allowance into just those areas here, because otherwise it's going to cut it in too small. Some other things you might like to do, you might like to open out the neckline a little bit. So you could do this in multiple different ways. Let's say you want more of a boat neckline. You could do that this way, keeping it quite high. It's good to remember that anything here, because it's going to get cut on the fold. So if you don't have it coming to a right angle here, it means it's either going to, when it opens out, dip down as a V, or if you actually had it coming up this way, it's going to go upwards, which might look a little bit strange. So it's fine if I wanted to do more of a V-neck, I could do that like this. Make that change on my pattern. There's all sorts of changes that you could make to the neckline. I would recommend not making it too small here though, because you do still need to have it able to turn out and then attach to the bodice back. So anything that I make, any changes that I make to this shoulder seam on the front, I also need to make sure I make not identical but the same proportions of the new shoulder seam in the same places on the center, on the shoulder back here. So I can just place them together like this and see where they line up. So if I was going with this V-neck line, I would know that, okay, I'm going to be keeping this part, but I'm going to be getting rid of this part. That doesn't mean I need to make it a V at the back. I could make it still a curve at the back if I wanted to, but I need to make sure that at least it is chopping off this bit, because this one has chopped off this bit. because they are going to join up together. I would also want to move that notch over to here, same thing on this side, so that I still have a notch there to use. Some other things you could do that are getting a little bit more complex is you can actually manipulate where your bust darts are. So this is an example of doing it here. So what you do is actually cut a slit or cut open your bust dart, and you use the pattern paper, so you do it as a draft first, to actually transfer it down here and open up. Now I could have done that with and I'd put a slit up here as well where I want the new one to be. I could have done that with multiple ones. I could have them come from the top as well if I wanted. So that's just an example of how you could actually change where that dart is. On this one, I've also done an example of cutting it really low at the back and doing quite a low V back as well. The other change that I've drawn on here is actually making it slightly more of a halter neck. So if I wanted to do that on my pattern, I'm actually going to take away some of this area here, and that's going to make it more of a halter. But of course, I need to do the same thing to my front to make sure that that I'm taking the same amount away here as I'm taking away there. So that's really important because those shoulder seams need to join up. I also need to make sure that I can always be joining up my waist seams, because this is where my waist seams join up. The other thing I didn't point out was that you can do the same thing with change it. You're actually taking this cut all the way up on your back if you wanted as well, if you wanted to make that more of a princess line, or if you wanted to actually make it just a two-piece back, you could do that too. There's lots of different things you can do. So that's some different ways you could manipulate the bodice. With our skirt pattern piece, so here is our basic, our block pattern for the skirt. Now how that looks, our basic one when it's sewn together is like this. It is a really long one. It's probably even a little bit longer than I'm drawing here. It has a zipper at the back. I should point out the same thing as our bodice has a zipper at the back. You have to, because you need a way of getting into it, because it's not stretchy fabric that we're using. They also do have, you can see a little dart here, so that's represented up there with this skirt dart. Same thing there. So a couple of basic things you could do. If you wanted to make it A-line with no gathers in it at all, you could cut open that dart, join the dart together, so that's joining together where, so you just actually cut this open and join the two pieces together, but you cut the whole way down. You might not want to cut your skirt so long, but you'd be cutting, cut off where you want your skirt to come to, cut the whole way down it, and then you can actually open out the piece and join that bit there. Now I would turn this into a nicer curve. I wouldn't keep it a curve that's got this big triangle in it. I'd ease that curve out. That would mean that I definitely need to keep my zip at the back because it's going to be cut even to my waist. You'd check that the measurement is accurate for your waist as well. And of course you can change the length, but make sure you change it evenly the whole way along. Another thing I could do, I could actually take out that dart and open it up to enable me to put either gathers or pleats in it. So this is just separating it as much as you like. Now the technical way if I was going to put pleats in is I would actually need to put a cut for everywhere that I want a pleat. But because this is a very simple pattern, you really don't need to do that. In many ways we could actually, if you're wanting lots and lots of pleats or gathers, you could just make this with one big rectangle. You wouldn't really need it to have the curve. It would be possible to just have one big rectangle that's cut on the grain, so it makes it really easy. So this is an example of adding some gathers. So you could have your gathered skirt onto your obviously not gathered bodice. And this is an example of doing some box pleats. Now you could also do pleats that were all going the same direction too. So there's a few different ways that you could alter your pattern pieces in order to make the skirt. So I'm going to make, or to make the whole dress, sorry, I'm going to make up the dress in different sections. So I'm going to do lots of little videos to show the steps involved. And I'm just going to do it using, I'll use the most basic versions, but I might actually change up just so I can show you some of these techniques. I might change it up to do a gather here instead. So I'll do the very basic bodice, and I'll do a gathered skirt just so you can see the difference in making that. All right, so enjoy these tutorials. Bye.